guys, Samantha from Jessama Tutorials here, and today I'm going to show you a fun little tutorial where we're going to kind of create a faux watercolor effect. So first you're going to need some white polymer clay that's been rolled out on your thickest setting, and just choose any cutter you want. I am going to be using this heart cutter from my extra large mixed heart set 1. There we go. And all we want to do right now is essentially just cut out the shape, and then we're going to be putting that into the oven. Okay. And just run your finger around the edge just to smooth it out so you don't have too much sanding to do, if any, like so. Because we're going to be working on baked clay. There we go. Then just pop that into the oven for about 40 minutes at pretty much recommended temperature, and then when it's done we can move on to the next step. Okay, there we go, it's fully baked. So I'm going to save the sanding till later, I think. So now we're going to move on to using some alcoholics. Now I've got 3 that I'm definitely going to use, that being Passion Purple, Lime Green and Raja Blue. Though I might also be using Senorita Magenta. We'll have to see. So I'm just going to open those off to the side so that they don't get crumbs everywhere, and so that they're ready to use. And now the reason that I have baked the clay first is because alcohol ink tends to sink into the clay while it is raw, and so it creates a different effect. But when it is fully baked, it kind of floats on the surface, and so you have more of those interesting bloom effects, which is what I want. So I've just got a brush here, and I think I'm going to start with the blue, drop a bit off to the side here, and I'll actually drop down all 3 so I can work with them. And I'll just drop that there just in case. Right, and I'll start with the blue, and I'm just going to drag that across the surface. Yeah, bring along the green. More blue there. Pop some purple on as well. And I'm not going to be cleaning off my brush as I do this, because I want the colours to kind of intermingle into one another. Okay, and this is just the first layer. So let me grab some more blue. And you can clean your brush off every once in a while. I might add a little bit of pink here. Brush that off. Add a little more green. And I'm just going to continue fussing with it, playing around with these colours, not necessarily cleaning off my brush, so that we get kind of a mix of colours. And if you don't like it at any point, you can always spray isopropyl alcohol onto the surface and rub it off, and you'll just have a light stain. Okay, and that's the first layer done. I'll just bring over a piece of paper, a layer over the top. I'm going to grab some isopropyl alcohol and I'm going to lightly spray. Then I'm just going to run that over the surface, and that should smooth out the colours a bit, because I want to lift them off for the most part so that we just have the staining underneath. Okay. And I'll actually bring over this and just dry off the rest, because it was looking very dark before. Okay, just cleaning that off. Alright, then we're ready to move on to the next step. Okay, so I've just cleaned off my brush, and I'm just going to brush this on very lightly. So, and we'll blend it again in a minute or 2. Okay, so I'm just going to go back over the colours that we had before, and I'm going to be cleaning my brush in between this time around, because I don't want to have colour cross contamination this time around. Okay, and then when we're done, I'll show you the next step. Okay, there we go. And I'm just going to bring over a piece of paper. I'm just going to use it to just get rid of any of the any bits that are still sticky. And then what we're going to do is, from a distance, I want you to lightly spray the isopropyl. So from a distance. You see how we're getting those blooms? That's what we're aiming for. There we go. Do another one. Okay, then grab your paper again. And that's just going to remove any dark spots so it looks more blended. And I'm just going to repeat that process a few times until I'm happy with the results. Okay, and there we go. So that's how it looks. So you can see there's lots of little bubbles, but it's also quite nicely blended, so all the colours kind of fade into one another. Okay, so now I'm going to bring over my silkscreen of choice. You can use any silkscreen you want, but I thought since we've got little bubbles and such, my Larimar silkscreen would work. Now I know that it's supposed to be for faux Larimar, but I thought it would work quite nicely for this as well. Okay, so let's choose a section. So I'm just going to turn around so I can see what I'm doing. And I think I quite like that. Now these silkscreens have a sticky backing, so that allows you to work with them on baked polymer clay. Now if it's not that sticky, which it isn't right now, what you can do is you can take a little bit of water and just run it along the back ever so slightly. So I've just got a dropper here, drop some water down, and I'll just run that over the area that we are going to be using. And this will just wet the silkscreen a touch and make it a little more on the sticky side. I'm just making sure that I'm getting all the surrounding areas. And I'm doing this on the back side of the silkscreen. Okay, just wipe that up. Okay, and then also dab the silkscreen dry a touch. And that will have made it a fair bit more sticky. Okay, and I'll bring this over and we'll try again. There we go, and that's sticking much better this time around. Okay, and now I'm going to be very careful because the paint can still very easily leak out from under the silkscreen, so I wouldn't advise using a scraper. I'm going to be using my fingers today to do this. So I'm just going to pop some paint on the tile, and then I'm going to use my finger and I'm just going to tap it into place, like so. And don't be going and scrubbing it, just lightly tap, otherwise you're going to get spillage. And I'm using white acrylic paint. You can use any colour you want, but the white's going to show up the best. And I just dab that over the whole surface, like so. Okay. And then we will lift and quickly go clean your silkscreen. Okay, and there we go. So that turned out very nicely. So you can see how the ink definitely does stain the paint a little bit, so just bear that in mind. Also, the thicker the paint, the easier this process is going to be, so also keep that in mind. So now I'm going to bake this for another 15 minutes to cure the paint and the alcohol ink so that it's solidified to the clay, and then we're going to give the sides and back a good sand. Okay, and then once it's out of the oven and completely cool, we will then sand the sides. And I'm just going to be using a 400 grit sandpaper, like so. And I'm just smoothing it so that it's, I'm just sanding it so it's nice and smooth. I'm probably actually going to use a pen to colour the sides so that they're nice and consistent as far as one colour goes. If you want, before you bake this, you can always pop some alcohol ink along the sides if you wanted. But yeah, it's completely up to you if you want to do that or not. I'm just busy smoothing it, and then we'll be able to colour it. You also want to sand the back with a 400. If you want a shine, then go up through the grits, but I want a satin finish, so I'm going to be using just the 400. Okay, then I'm just going to use this metallic pen. I'm just going to use that to colour the edges silver, like so. And generally I'll go over and give it 2 coats, just to make sure that it's an opaque finish, because you can still see some of the ink through that silver. But yeah, I'll colour up the edges like that, and then when that's done and once it's dried, we can finish it off. Okay, and there we go. So it's nice and clean, and I've also done the same for the back. So now I'm just going to bring over some Renaissance wax, and I am going to clean or apply it to the surface. And now I don't think that I'm going to buff. I want it to keep this matte finish, so I'm not going to be buffing any of the Renaissance wax. And I'll apply it to the sides and the back as well, and you want to leave that to dry for a little bit before you actually start using it. Okay, then I'm going to grab a pen and drill, and I'm going to use that to drill a hole. And drill that straight through, like so. Make sure to clean up the back, and I'll drill through that side as well. There we go. And then you're just going to need a jump ring and a bail. Open it up and pop it through. Attach your bail. Close it up. Just spin that around into the hole. There we go. And there we go. That's basically all there is to it. So I hope you enjoyed that tutorial. Please let me know in the comments below what you thought of it. I think it's quite fun to play with alcohol ink on baked clay. As you can see that the effect is quite different. You'll also find that the alcohol ink does not dull anywhere near as much as when you bake it on raw polymer clay, because it just doesn't absorb into the clay as much. So that's something that you should play around with. And also, if you're using my silk screens, don't be afraid to play with them on baked clay as well, because they will stick to the surface. You're going to want to use thicker paint than you would on the raw clay when you're using the silk screens. And you just want to be more careful, because it can slide under the silk screen quite easily, but you can still use them on baked polymer clay, so it's something to play around with. And so yeah, that's basically it. If you would like to support the channel, please do consider becoming a patron or buying my tools on my Etsy shop. It helps me continue doing videos like this one. And as always, I'll see you in the next tutorial. Bye for now.